Hi guys, this is Dade here, and I'm here to do the first video of the 4 stages of listening, and this is about being able to communicate with your spouse, especially when you're walking in restoration and you start asking those open-ended questions and you're getting answers, to be able to dissect the answers, to understand really your partner's different levels of emotional priority. So, like, what do they find important? I remember in my first encounter with this, having to listen to my wife. I had to learn how to listen to my wife. A lot of times, I was busy waiting on my turn to talk instead of listening to what she was saying, and then you get these instances where she says over and over, I don't feel like you're hearing me. I don't feel like you understand what I'm saying. I don't feel like, even though to me she's saying the same thing over and over and over again, and I feel like I get it, she doesn't feel heard. She doesn't feel understood, and that leads to worse and worse problems. And so this is the first stage, which is the actual listening step. There's 4 stages. There's listening, then there's receiving, and then there's processing. And then you have your respond time. And these 4 stages, they work cohesively, they work together. However, you've got to do them in order. If you start processing before you're listening and you start responding before you've even received, this is where problems really, really come into. But we want to start with a Bible verse. Going into Isaiah chapter 48, verse 12, where it says, Listen to me, O Jacob, even Israel, whom I called, I am he. I am the first, I am also the last. Surely my hand founded the earth, and my right hand spread out to the heavens, and when I call to them, they stand together. Assemble all of you and listen. Who among them has declared these things? The Lord loves him. He will carry out his good pleasure on Babylon, and his arm will be against the Chaldeans. Sorry if I butchered that name. But where you really want to, what I really want to highlight in this verse is the beginning in 48, in 12, where it says, Listen to me. And then it really explains who he is. So when I had to listen to my wife, I had to understand that this was part of cherishing her, is listening to her. I know a lot of men are doing the eye roll thing, like, oh my gosh, she talks so much, I don't want to listen. However, it's important so you know that you're addressing her priorities emotionally. If you're addressing her emotional priority that's like number 5 and you think it's number 1, but you're addressing number 5, you guys are not going to be on the same page on your communication. So first, in that listening stage, it talks about, like in this verse, Listen to me, O Jacob, even Israel, whom I called. I am he, I am the first and also the last. God is explaining who he is. So as a man, you want to be listening so she knows my husband is listening to me. He cares about what I'm thinking, what I have to say. It's important to him what I have to say. So therefore, he's not interrupting me. He's just sitting there listening to me. And eye contact in this stage is very, very important. It lets them understand that not only do you hear me, your soul hears me. And I know that sounds like one thing or another, but when you're speaking to your spouse soul to soul, you guys are probably looking eye to eye. Eye to eye contact is very, very important in this stage. It lets them know that you're listening to you. Your ears and your heart is open. So then you can start receiving the information that they're giving you in your heart, not just in your ears, or in your ear gates, as my wife would call it. I remember in the beginning times of my restoration, I would ask open-ended questions, get the answer, but in the middle of the answer, I'm talking, or I'm thinking in my head what I'm going to say. However, as I'm thinking, I'm speaking. So I've never actually heard anything that she had to really say. I could repeat it to her, but I didn't really know what she said or felt how she felt or what she was really thinking. So, a lot of times I was trying to address something that really had nothing to do with what she was saying. And so that's the first part of really listening, understanding that I am the husband and I want to hear my wife. I want to hear what she has to say. Before I receive it, I want to hear how she speaks, the different mannerisms, the tones that she's using. Is she feeling a certain way? How does she feel? What is she thinking? How can I help with this situation? And sometimes in that listening stage, you're going to think that, oh, I need to fix a problem. And that's not necessarily the case. A lot of times, especially in the beginning of restoration, you're going to be doing a lot of soundboard movement where your wife or spouse just wants to talk, or they want to let this out. It's been on their chest for a while and they just want to let it out. And they need you to be a sounding board for them. They need you just to listen. They don't need you to move or fix anything. I mean, I almost got into automatic computer mode. Fix the problem. This is the code. Fix it. And then I realized that a lot of times it was just she wanted to explain the problem. As a husband, a lot of times you end up having to deal with her just explaining the problem more so than actually fixing it. So that listening stage is prioritizing what her emotional needs are. I know that my wife's emotional needs are definitely that top priority is being heard, being a sounding board. Being a sounding board for her. So I'm emotionally available for her is like her number one priority. I had these priorities mixed up. A lot of times I would think, oh, it's the way that we're viewed in public is her number one emotional need. And I was actually very, very wrong. So in order to know that, I had to listen to her. I had to really understand how she felt and what she was thinking. As it says in Isaiah 48:13, when I call to them, they stand together. So when called and you're listening, you and your wife, when she's or you and your spouse, when she's speaking to you and you guys are talking together on the same page, then you guys are standing together. That's why the Lord was really leading me to this chapter and verse. So I understood that even earlier in times before I had read this, that I was really understanding how to listen to my spouse, how to really care about her emotional priorities, her needs, how to really understand how to meet those needs. I had so many things that I can talk about in the mentorship programs in my next 14-day challenge. I'm sure we're also going to address them in that Q&A, and we will have the Q&A very soon. I just definitely wanted to address that first stage when I'm trying to hear her emotional priorities. I'm trying to hear the response from that open-ended question in the ABC method. Now I want to hear that response and dissect it, kind of compare that to the word. That's what the next stage is when I receive it, I compare it to the word. That's another conversation we'll talk about in the next stage, but this is the first stage, listening, and thank you for watching this video.